Hey guys, welcome back to the Laid-Back Homestead. I'm Crystal and today we are going to be up potting our seedlings. So I will go ahead and take you along on the way that I do this, my method, my tips and tricks to hopefully eliminate any seedling loss. So if you've struggled in the past with either losing your baby plants to transplant shock or to simply not understanding the processes of hardening off, I encourage you to go ahead and give this video a shot. The first task on my garden chores to-do list is one of my favorites, up potting seedlings. They've been growing fast due to our heat, and it's time to give them a little more room to really stretch their roots. I find this time to be almost meditative. There's nothing better than sitting outside and hearing the birds chirping and the wind blowing and seeing the potential in these baby seedlings. Now, here I am writing the tags, which is very important because all of the plants that I started are brassicas or within the brassica family, and they all look alike as seedlings. So I have cauliflower here, broccoli here, Brussels sprouts here, as well as cabbage, and they all look the same. Now, up potting is important if you start your seeds in these smaller seed trays. As you can see, I do like to start my brassicas in the 72 count trays. Now, when seedlings stay in those tiny starter cells for too long, the roots can get crowded and start circling, essentially making them root bound. By moving them into a slightly bigger pot or container, they'll have fresh soil and more nutrients, which helps them stay healthy and grow stronger before heading out to the garden. I find that my seedlings tend to stall out if left in these containers for too long, so once I see them stop growing, I know it's time to up pot them. Now let's talk about the soil mix I like to use when I up pot. I keep it simple and affordable. I grab a bag of compost in either container gardening soil or raised bed soil. Honestly, whichever brand is on sale works fine for this step. To give the seedlings a little nutrient boost, I mix in a small scoop of organic granular fertilizer. I like to blend everything together in this big tote so it's ready whenever I need it. Having that mix prepped ahead of time makes it way easier to stay on top of up potting because I'm not running around mixing soil every time a tray of seedlings outgrows its space. Before I start filling the pots, I always moisten the mix. You don't want it soggy, just damp enough that it holds together when you squeeze it. That way the roots settle in nicely and you don't end up chasing dry soil all over your table. And as you can see in this video, mine really is not moist enough, and I do end up making quite a mess when I go to up pot my seedlings. I start by making a deep impression in my new bigger trays and then gently popping the seedling out of its current tray and burying it deep enough so that it is stabilized and not flopping over. If I had more than one seed germinate in the smaller trays, I will tease the two seedlings apart and put them in separate pots. If your potting mix is dry, you will need to again water in your seedlings to help the roots settle and the soil compact so there are no air gaps at the bottom of the pots. If I notice any of my seedlings have flopped over, I will take extra soil and add it to the base of the stem to help prop it up and give it more support. It is okay and actually considered beneficial to bury brassicas deep at the time of transplant. It's fertilizer day. Once the seedlings are tucked into their new pots and out in their sunny location, I like to give them a gentle nutrient boost with a fish emulsion feed. Most gardeners suggest mixing it at about half the strength recommended for mature plants, and that's what I generally do. Personally, I've never had any problems using fish fertilizer on young seedlings. It's mild and provides a nice quick hit of nitrogen to keep them growing strong. I reach for it every spring and fall without fail. And no, I am not sponsored in any way. If you've tried fish emulsion and had a different experience, let me know in the comments down below. Now, full disclaimer, fish emulsion does have a very strong odor. So if that is something you are sensitive to, you may want to look into alternative sources of seedling fertilizers. And this is just a little update. These were what we up potted. Some of them are smaller than others, but they were punier to begin with inside of their trays. So some of them are just behind others. They'll do fine. They'll bounce back. It's actually been a couple of days, so you can see everybody's handling it well out here. And then I have seedlings in various stages. These were up potted a little while ago. And then we have some with some caterpillar damage, but that's okay. This guy, he's beyond ready to get out of there. So I want to talk real quick about hardening off, because in the video, you see me go from up potting my seeds in the shade and sliding them right back out onto my table. And yes, that is exactly what I did, and they've been there ever since. It's been several days. But that's because my seeds were started in the 72 count tray and out on my table. They are used to our 90-degree weather. They're used to the UV index. That's how they've come up. That's all they know. If you start your seeds in a controlled environment, meaning a greenhouse, a windowsill, grow lights, anything of that sort, you will need to harden off your seedlings. So if that would have been the case and I would have started them in my greenhouse as I do in the spring, I would have up potted them and left them in the shade for a couple of days. And once they look like they were acclimated, then I move them out to my table. And we do that in increments of maybe 2 hours to start, just to see if they look droopy during that time. I will come out and pull them, put them back under the shade. So in the beginning, it can be a little testy. So if you do work a full-time job, I would recommend waiting until you either have some consistent afternoons where you can be a little bit more vigilant, or a weekend or something of that sort, to where you can keep an eye on what's going on out there. Again, because I started mine out on the table, they're used to it. I check on them initially after up potting just to make sure there's no transplant shock if it's a super hot day, but for the most part, they do fine. If you do not harden off your seedlings, you very likely will lose them. I ran an experiment. If you caught my September garden tour video, I actually showed what happens when you don't harden off your seedlings and what it looks like when you do and the success you can have. So all that to say, if you are starting your seeds in your greenhouse or in your house or a grow tent or anything like that, you need to harden them off. It is crucial that you harden them off. Well, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope this demystifies some of the process, especially if you are someone who has suffered loss. There's no guarantee 100% that you'll be able to save every single seedling. Sometimes I find that the seeds just aren't super viable, and even from the word go, they don't come up really strong. And there are going to be factors outside of your control. But hopefully these tips and methods will help eliminate your seedling loss or your transplant shock. That's the goal at the end of the day. The more plants that make it, the more food we get. So if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're into gardening and homesteading content, I encourage you to subscribe. And until next time, stay blessed.